What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, before I get into this video, I always like to remind you guys that if you want to donate to this channel, if you want to show love to this channel, contribute to Too Raw for TV, you can do so in the links provided in the description box below. And I do have a Patreon page where I talk about issues that I can't talk about on YouTube. And I strongly suggest those of you who fuck with me, you know what I'm saying? You guys that roll with me, rock on my channel, go over there and sign to the Patreon for only $2 per month, and take video requests as well. Now, shout out to Tiki TV. He talked about this in a video that I saw last night, and now look, this is good news for Joe Johnson. All right, Joe Johnson, I believe, signed with the Detroit Pistons for a one year deal worth, I think it's something like roughly $2.5 million, with over $200,000 in guaranteed money. And I think that the whole deal becomes guaranteed if he's still on the roster past January the 7th, if I read that correctly. Of course, Joe Johnson hasn't played in the NBA since 2017-18 when he split time with the Utah Jazz and the Houston Rockets, though his time with the Rockets, his playing time gradually declined as the season progressed with the Rockets. Of course, that's the same year the Rockets lost in Game 7 to the Golden State Warriors by like 6 points or something like that. I can't remember the spread, but it was a small amount of points compared to the fact that they missed something like 27 consecutive three-point attempts. You know what I'm saying? Um, but he's back in the NBA. A lot of it has to do with the strength of his performance in the Big Three League. He led his team to championship. And at the age of 38, I believe he is, 38 or 39, one of the two. I know he's at least 38 years old. He's back in the NBA. That's great for Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson had his best years, to me, statistically, with the Atlanta Hawks. But he had a good tenure as well with the Brooklyn Nets. I believe Joe Johnson started his career with the Boston Celtics. I think he started his career with the Boston Celtics. He had a tenure with the Phoenix Suns, but his best years, I think, statistically, were the Atlanta Hawks. I remember serving correctly. Joe Johnson had 1 year where he averaged like 25 points per game. And then he signed that big contract, which was a huge contract at the time, like $120 million total over like, I can't remember the spread, but like maybe 5 years or 6 years or something like that, which at the time was a huge contract. And, you're expecting Joe Johnson to continue to improve as a player, putting up 26, 27, 25. But he fell back down like the 2021. I don't know. It's just, he had this reputation for being one of the most overvalued player in the league, valued players in the league. And I'm not knocking Joe Johnson. I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer, you know, very borderline. No, he has over 20,000 career points. The only guy with 20,000 career points not in the Hall of Fame now is Tom Chambers. And I'm to the point now where if you're putting all these other guys in the Hall, shit, put Tom Chambers in there. But I think the main reason why Tom Chambers isn't in the Hall of Fame is because he really had no postseason success. Uh, he was a great scorer, but, that seems to be about it. But of course, people are wondering, if Joe Johnson has an opportunity now, why is Carmelo Anthony still not in the NBA? And I do think that Carmelo Anthony deserves a shot. I think he deserves a shot. You could see clearly that he's in the best shape I've seen ever. The recent footage of him, I don't know if I've ever seen Carmelo Anthony look that fit since maybe his rookie year or something like that. I mean, or his first couple of years in the NBA, he looks in absolute tremendous basketball shape. Um, I do think that he deserves at least one more shot, another opportunity. I do think that he's being whiteballed by the NBA owners, and I don't understand exactly why. The guy can still play basketball. I've never been a huge fan of his style. I don't really like a lot of volume scoring ISO guys. I just never been a big fan of that type of players. But I do know a guy who has value, and the guy averages over 24 points per game for his career. Okay, like I said in the video before, his scoring average is on par with great players like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Bird, Rick Barry. Okay, Julius Erving. All right, he has a higher career scoring average than Shaquille O'Neal. Um, not saying he's his greatest player, but I'm just putting things into perspective. So you have a guy like this who's played as long as he has, and he's not getting an opportunity to play in the NBA. It doesn't make any sense. All right. Now, like I said, I know that his last couple of teams he did not have success. He wasn't particularly good with the Thunder, and he wasn't good with the Rockets. But we have to remember that those two teams weren't actually good. I don't think those two teams were good fits for him anyway. You know, and Carmelo has made it a point. He has made it a point to emphasize that he's willing to accept a lesser role. All right, he's kind of shed his superstar ego to an extent, and he's willing to accept a role off the bench, which I think might be a little bit more suited for him. I think him being the lead guy off of a bench would be a great role for him. Now I understand not every NBA star or superstar gets to ride off in the sunset. You know what I'm saying? Um, Not everybody's going to have that type of storybook career. Um, Michael Jordan even took a little bit of shine off of his career by coming back with the Wizards. Because if he never came back with the Wizards, he would have had the greatest storybook ending of his career in NBA history. Um, like I said, not everybody gets to ride off in the sunset, you know, winning a championship. Not everybody is like Jerome Bettis in football. Most people, I think, end up more like Joe Namath, or to switch back into basketball, like a Bernard King who limped off the NBA with the then New Jersey Nets in '93. You know, his retirement was pretty much like a quiet one. You know, many people forgot all about Bernard King. Um, but I do think that Carmelo deserves another chance. I do. And fuck all these people that's talking about, oh, well, the reason why he doesn't play anymore because he doesn't play defense. I'm so sick of that excuse, man. Like I said in the video before, um, I noticed guys like Carmelo Anthony, guys like Allen Iverson toward the end of his career, and guys like DeMarcus Cousins. People always say this, oh, he doesn't play defense. I really think that means he doesn't work hard. You know, he's lazy. That's what I really think that means. You know, because there are a lot of guys in the NBA that don't play defense and they get jobs. They get hired for whatever their skill set is. They score, you know, they're 3-point specialists, whatever. You know, they get jobs consistently. I never really hear, and I'm just going to be 100% honest with you guys. I never heard a lot of writers harp on Steve Nash for not playing defense, and that guy was horrible defensively. I never heard, oh man, he doesn't deserve a job in the NBA. He doesn't play defense. I'm telling you, man, it's cold for he's lazy, he doesn't work hard. That's what that shit really means. Because Steve Nash is one of the worst defensive players I've ever seen in my life. Okay? Great offensive player, great playmaker. You know what I'm saying? one of the greatest passers ever, great shooter, great, decent scorer. It wasn't his mentality. He wasn't the guy who's going to put up 25 points a game, but in all other aspects of the game, he was great. On defense, Steve Nash was horrible. But you see a lot of writers, critiquing him even when he was playing about his defensive liability. And anyway, I've seen Carmelo Anthony in his last few years give effort on defense. He's just not a good defensive player. It's just not his forte. You know, um, what he was paid millions of dollars to do was to put the basketball in the basket, and he could do that better than almost anybody. He was a multiple time All Star, and he won the scoring title. I think it was 2012, 2013. I believe that might have been the season he won the scoring title. So this is a guy that can fill it up. You know what I'm saying? And if he had a better team around him in New York, maybe they could have done a little bit more than what they did. Okay. But I do think that he had ultimately, at least individually, a successful run with the Knicks. Okay. If he had a better team around him, maybe they could have done something more. Okay. But yeah, I do think he deserves one more chance, man. And we'll see if it happens. And I also agree with Ticket TV on the fact that instead of these guys calling Rachel Nichols, these guys, these basketball players who behind the scenes are advocating for Carmelo Anthony to get a shot. Why aren't these guys out here, saying, actually going more public? Actually going public and advocating for Carmelo Anthony, and really pushing and vouching for him. Hey, this guy is one of the best players of his generation. All right, this guy, had he been, fate could be so much different. Had Carmelo Anthony actually been drafted by Joe Dumars in 2003, okay, had he been drafted by Joe Dumars in the Detroit Pistons in 2003, they would have almost certainly have still won the championship in 2004. Okay, that series might have been a sweep. If everything goes the same, that series would have been a sweep. All right. In 2005, when the Spurs beat the Pistons in 7, with Carmelo Anthony on that team, the Pistons, probably they win the championship over the Spurs. So it's 2 years in a row that you win a championship. Your first 2 years in the NBA and you win championships. 2006, with Carmelo Anthony on that Pistons team, maybe they go to the finals again. Not a given, not a given, but maybe you go to the finals again. But let's just, for the sake of argument, let's give that title to Miami and D Wade. In 2007, I think that team with Carmelo beats LeBron in his one-man show that year. All right, and especially in the critical game 5, I think that team goes back to finals. And I don't know if that team beats the Spurs because I still think that 2007 Spurs team is arguably the best Spurs team of all time. Um, but the fact remains that he would have had multiple final appearances, at least 3, possibly 4, and won 2 to 3 championships, I think. So Carmelo Anthony's legacy would be totally different. Totally different. We could be looking at Carmelo Anthony in the same way, or close to the same way we look at LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? And I do think it's unfair. I think it's unfair that this guy's not getting at least a shot, you know. And these players need to step up and speak out for this guy. And I think what it is these guys themselves don't want, you know, They don't want the spotlight on them. They don't want any scrutiny on them. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to be targeted. Rasheed Wallace said it best years ago when he said the NBA was like a big plantation and the players are slaves. That's really it's pretty true. You know what I'm saying? Yes, these guys get paid millions of dollars, but they're still, they don't really still have any power for the most part uh, when it comes to speaking out about stuff. I remember when Derrick Rose came up with that statement that he thought that the NBA, like 70% of the players, use PEDs, and he had to retract that quick. You know what I'm saying? These guys really don't have a lot of power. They get paid to perform, a lot of money, because it's a capitalist system and how much money the NBA makes, but they don't really have a lot of power. The NBA is very corporate with a lot of things, man. But it can be shady too. So that's pretty much what's going on, man. But